Good evening, everybody. Manitoba Major Junior Hockey League fans, to Episode 3, Season 2 of the Manitoba Major Junior Hockey League podcast. I'm your host, Graham, the G Show Forsyth. This edition of the podcast brought to you by Terrico, Make Canada Fasters and Tools, Goaltenders, as well as Can Central Sports Cards and Memorabilia. Not sure why my other sponsors aren't showing. Hoping I can get that sorted out as the show goes along. We're just going to take that away for the time being. But yeah, the Manitoba Major Junior Hockey League season is officially underway. There's been 6 games that have been played so far. And in terms of the league's season opener, it was played at St. Vital Centennial Arena on Thursday night between the Junior Victorias and the Fort Garry Twins. Both of these teams having a lot of veterans on their team, a lot of returning talent, and it was pretty close for the most part, and then St. Vital ended up breaking away. It started off with St. Vital breaking in, scoring the first goal of the game. Rylan Netchwaduk with a beautiful feed over to Aiden Anderson, and he tucks it home with the forehand backhand deke past Alex Pauls. A little later in the period, as Fort Garry pressing in front of the St. Vital Junior Victoria's net, it would be Noah Friesen picking up his first of the season, scoring the Twins' first goal to tie it at 1 apiece. But the Twins would end up getting in penalty trouble, 11 total penalties in this game. The Victorias would find some magic, like here, setting it up. Netchwaduk, along with Kiesman and Anderson, goes back to Netchwaduk, and getting the stick on it would be captain Tyler Rubini, getting on the board for the first time in this 2024-2025 campaign. The Vics would score 3 unanswered on the power play, adding a shorthanded goal to make a final 5-1 as they start off 1-0. And speaking of their captain in Tyler Rubini for the St. Vital Junior Victorias, had a chance to ask him about how nice that first goal was for himself, getting to see this season, the expectations he has, and plenty more on this edition of the Manitoba Major Junior Hockey League podcast here on G Show Productions on gshow.ca, brought to you by Make Canada Fasters and Tools, Terrico, Goaltenders, and Can Central Sports Cards and Memorabilia. It's new captain of the St. Vital Junior Victorias, number 9, returning forward Tyler Rubini. Tyler, we called your game last night, your team's game, the Victorias win over the Twins to open up the season 5-1. 3 straight power play goals, an empty net, short-handed goal. Team looked really good. How was the boys feeling on opening night with that big dub?
Yeah, obviously we knew it was a big game going into it. The Twins have a lot of returning guys as well that are obviously big players in the league. They have the defensive player of the year last year in Sam Matani. They got some guys that played in the Western League for a little bit, like Halamandaris, Korchinski, who played in Junior A. So we knew it was going to be a big one. We went into it pretty excited. Obviously, it was at home, which is always exciting to kick off the season at home. So we went into it excited. A couple new faces on our team. Had to get everybody ready, but we went out there, felt really good to get the win at home, and obviously it's always good to start 1-0. So
Yeah, and you mentioned the new guys. Player that I was really impressed with was not only the rookie goaltender in this league, and Ethan Penner, but as well as Blake Goretzky on the back end coming from the MJHL. Seems like this group year in and year out finds a way to add pieces like that. How huge has that been to this team's staying competitive as best as he can throughout these years?
yeah, absolutely. We had our eyes on Gretzky for a while just because he is Brady Jaquette's first cousin, actually. So we've always wanted to kind of get him back, but obviously he was playing in Junior A and enjoying that. So we let him have a couple years up there, but it worked out this year that they had new coaches and they wanted to go a different direction. So getting him back has been massive. We knew we needed a couple more pieces this year if we were going to be competitive. Obviously, Penner's another guy that provides something of that. He actually played for us 2 years ago, played a couple games for us until he got called up to Junior A as well over in Ontario. So, we knew we might be getting those guys back. It's obviously always huge to add something that wasn't on the team last year. Guys that aren't really vets, but they are vets in the sense that they've played junior hockey before and made an impact in a different league. So it was huge to get those guys back for sure.
Yeah, and really impressed with Penner's performance last night. Actually gave him the player of the game on our broadcast. But for yourself, you get your season started with a deflection goal on the power play. Rylan Nechwaduk with a big night himself. That whole line contributing big time for this team. How'd that feel? Getting that first goal in the first game of the season to get that monkey off the back early.
Yeah, it definitely felt good. It's always good to get a goal in the first game of the season. I didn't get one in preseason this year, so I was a little bit nervous, but it was good to get one on the power play. I feel like our power play in the last couple of years has been pretty lackadaisical, but we've only practiced it once this year. But I mean, when you put a bunch of guys with all this talent on one power play, like the two Anderson twins, Kiesman, who played in Junior A, and then me and Ryland, who have been in this league for a while, I feel like good things are going to happen if things go our way. So yeah, it felt really good to get one on the power play though, for sure.
Yeah, I was operating at a high level last night. Not only do you score on the power play, but the team had three unanswered on that man advantage. For yourself, you get named the captain yesterday by the team, but I heard some rumors actually. It first came up at a fantasy football draft. Nick Walsh, he told me, "Hey, Ruben is not
Yeah,
playing this year," and I'm like, "What? That's crazy. I can't believe it." It turns out you are playing. I heard there was obviously some decisions you were contemplating, your personal life that'll affect your professional career. But just dive into what went into you making that decision to come back this season for your final year of MMJHL hockey.
yeah. So Nick Welch is actually a pretty good source on that because I was contemplating it a little bit. I started law school this year, so I'm in 7 classes a term. So it's a really busy schedule, and I didn't know how that was going to look with hockey. I didn't know what my schedule was going to be like. So kind of going into the year, I wasn't really sure, but then I saw the roster that we had on paper, and I mean, I knew that we were getting some of these guys back, like Penner and like Goretzky and guys coming up from provincial AAA and Carter Wilson and Baker, and I thought, with St. James losing a bunch of guys this year, the league is wide open and it's there for the taking, and if this team was going to make a push, I knew that I could be a big part of that, and so I had that conversation with Ty, and they're all in for winning this year. We had to talk about leadership this year. It's something I've always been big on in my game. So I knew that if I could come back and help as both an on ice guy and a leader in the dressing room and go for the championship this year, I would regret it if I didn't. So that's kind of what went into it.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, it's a great opportunity this year, of course, for this victorious team. Like you said, I mean, St. James will still be a very good team, but they don't have the same guys like a Tyrone Willen and some of their other big guys that ended up, aging out. But you mentioned how, this group are all in on winning this season. 2 years ago, this team made it to the finals and lost to St. James in a sweep last year, losing in heartbreaking fashion, 8-6 in Game 7 against Charleswood. Starting off well this season, but what have you taken, I guess, from these past experiences that you're looking to put into this year with your final season in the MM?
Yeah, I think every season's had kind of a different lesson. Last year, I think that there wasn't a lot of complacency, but I mean, I think that we took some games off last year as a group where we weren't focused going into the game. It happened a couple times in playoffs too, where we just weren't prepared properly. And I think that me and the coaches have been talking a lot, and we're placing a big emphasis on just being prepared for every game this year, not taking anybody lightly, understanding that we do have a really good team, but there's no skill in the world that can beat hard work if skill isn't working hard. So we kind of got to go into every game ready to play, working hard, and I think we learned those lessons last year in the playoffs. We did kind of let up. We should have closed out the game, and I believe it was Game 6 at home where we had like a 3-goal lead or a 2-goal lead or something like that early, and we let it slip away. So I think that just not getting complacent, always ready to work hard, even though we do have the skill. I think that those are some lessons that we've learned from the past years that we're trying to instill in the boys this year. So
I think that is a great mentality to have, especially coming from this team's captain. We're going to get back to that. Denny Gagnon, last year's captain, had the honor of passing the torch to you. Yesterday was announced on the social media. I'm not sure if it was done yesterday, but that's when I saw the post come out. How does it feel, to accept this honor of wearing the C in your final year of junior hockey?
Yeah, it's super special to me. I've been part of the Vic since I was in grade 12. I know that season was short, obviously only 3 games, but I've had a chance to play with a lot of great captains over the years. Ben Coppinger comes to mind, Gags obviously last year, and Braden Clark. All of them were different kinds of leaders, and so I think I've learned some valuable lessons from all three of them that I can incorporate to being the captain myself this year. But yeah, it's just super special. It shows that the boys have a lot of trust in me. Coach Ty and Coach Mark have a lot of trust in me, and I'm not going to take it lightly. I know what it means. I know how important it is, and I'm going to use it to the best of my abilities to get us to where we want to go this year. So
Yeah, you of course had a chance to wear a letter last year being an assistant captain, but like you said, you've had a chance to play with many leaders, great ones, different ones, year to year. What have you, I guess, taken away? Can you dive more into it from those experiences you've had, learning from their leadership styles and how you're looking to, use those experiences, but also put your own spin on it as your own captain?
yeah, so I think the guy I probably learned the most from was Coppinger, just because he was 3 years older and he had experience playing in the Western League. So I do kind of model my leadership style off of his. It was very it was very focused on not just an off the ice leadership. He was a great locker room guy and a great talker, but a lot of his play on the ice as well. Like I realized that if I'm out there and giving lack of effort, then the guys around me will see that and might think that's okay or that's how we need to play. So I think that giving 100% effort all the time, like Ben in both the defensive and the offensive zone, blocking shots when it comes to it, and doing all the small intangible things is really important as a leader, especially for younger guys coming into the league. Trying to model their game after someone, I would be honored if they chose me as that guy, like I chose Coppinger when I was in the league. So I think just being a leader both on and off the ice was something that I learned from Ben and the other captains as well. But just him when I was younger for sure is kind of how I model my leadership. So
You've been over a point per game player your whole time here in the MMJHL, and it's actually crazy because I've had a chance to interview Ben before, and the way you're talking is exactly like you said. You're emulating yourself after him in a way and modeling your leadership style like that, and it's very similar to the things you're saying compared to him. But you know, it of course takes more than just putting up points to win hockey games. You know that. I think the greats know that at the end of the day. Are you looking to take that final step this season, like you were talking about, in terms of, yeah, the points are going to come. I know I could put them up when we need them, but I'm focusing more on playing that all around game and perfecting it more.
yeah, absolutely. I'm completely prepared to take a back seat and not score as many points if I have to this year. This year, like points are awesome and they're a great solo statistic, but at the end of the day, people are going to remember who won the championship that year and not exactly who had fifth most points in the league. So it is obviously a focus to still score goals. I think that is part of my role as a last year guy who has been point per game every season is me and Ryland and the Anderson twins. Like we do still have to put the puck in the net, but if our defensive game and the other intangibles are lacking, we're going to fall short again. And I think that we all know that. And going into this year, we're all placing an emphasis on working our defensive game, me especially. I think that it's super important. And yeah, the end goal is always winning. It always has been winning. And this year especially, I'm all for it. But yeah, I'll take a back seat for scoring for sure.
Yeah, and who's to say it will actually happen that way, though? You could still, put up those points and maybe even career high numbers this year and still perfect your all around game. It's going to be an exciting next 44 to see how it transpires. But this weekend coming up, going up against the River East Royal Knights, on the road, a few days off, of course, since you all played in the Thursday night game yesterday. But What's the focus here from a player standpoint early on in the season after opening the game right on a high, trying to maybe temper expectations heading into the next one?
Yeah, I think we just got to ride the momentum of the first game. Again, like I said, you don't want to take anyone lightly. I know River East wasn't exactly the greatest team last year, and I'm not sure what they're looking like this year. But regardless of what they are, we want to take every team the same. We got to come prepared, and I think that we had a lot of good habits against the Twins on Thursday that we can carry over to the game on Sunday. There's definitely some stuff that we have to clean up, but the hockey's always sloppier at the start of the year. Everyone kind of expects that, so there's not too many things that like big things that we need to clean up. It's just small system stuff. Getting guys acclimated to the league, I think, is a big thing too. So I think it's just getting everybody ready, getting in the same mindset, and kind of having the same excitement levels that we had for Thursday, and just not taking River East lightly. So
This team last season finishes fifth place, a team that let in more goals than scored last year. Of course, took Charleswood to 7 games, traded punches in that series. But in terms of this year's team, seems like this is a reloaded Victoria's team, a team in the past that can play with speed, but sometimes got in trouble a bit in their own defensive zone. How would you describe the overall, I guess, how you boys are looking to play as a unit this season coming up, looking to clean up areas overall by the end of the year?
yeah, I don't think we've changed our systems too much. We still want to be an aggressive team. Obviously, I think that we got lots of offensive talent, but I think the main thing is getting our forwards to just into better defensive positions in the D zone. But also, I think that we did make some pretty good upgrades on our defensive end. I mean, we've mentioned Blake a couple times. We brought him in. We get Evan Phillip back full time. Brady Jaquette has been there for a long time. It's his last year. Dayton Kiesman gets another year under his belt, and then we bring in Carter Wilson, who was the provincial AAA captain for the Bruins last year. So I think that our defensive talent has definitely gotten better, and as our forwards get older and understand that defense means just as much offense, I think that our systems were good last year and they were in place to put us in a position to succeed, and we just didn't exactly do that. So I don't think that the systems will change too much. I just think that the players understand that an emphasis needs to be placed on that D zone, and the talent has gotten better. So I think that it will be a positive change for sure.
Ending off, I guess, with just touching on last year one more time. It was the first season of having a new coach, changing over from Jeff to Ty. It's his second year of having these systems in place. And like you said, there were times where this team you felt just didn't come ready to play. Of course, looking to eliminate that more this season. You think that's truly what it's going to come down to at the end of the day is just wanting it more because this league is so competitive as we saw last year.
Yeah, I think that that's honestly the biggest thing about this league, and I think it's something St. James had down really well. I think it's something that Pembina Valley actually embodies perfectly every single year. I don't think that Pembina Valley is always the most skilled team on paper. I think that their systems are in place really well. They've always been well coached, and they come to the rink wanting it more than everyone every night. You know, when you go to Morris or even when you go to Transcona, that you're going to be playing a team that could just out effort you, even if you do have more skill than them. And I think that we've learned that over the last 3 years. And last year, I think that Ty, as his first year in this league, really started to understand that we can't just win games based off skills. So him and Mark especially, Coach Mark is big on effort. So if guys aren't given the effort this year, then there might be repercussions because we're fully focused on bringing a good effort to every game and being prepared for every game. So
To say, in other words, this team's all in, and I think gonna do a lot of stuff to do whatever it takes to get to that championship this season. And you're finally you're tying a lot of big names on this year's VIX team's final season of their Manitoba Major Junior Hockey League careers. Thanks for joining me on the show. We're gonna be seeing you back in action along with this VIX team on Thursday coming up against the Raiders. Until then, best of luck coming up this weekend against River East.
yeah, thank you so much, Graham.
And for the St. Vital Junior Victorias, as mentioned, they'll be in action coming up tomorrow at 7:30 p.m. at Terry Sawchuk Arena to take on the River East Royal Knights. All teams will be in action tomorrow in the MMJHL as opening week wraps up. 2 games will be played on Thursday coming up in the upcoming week, as we'll have St. Vitel's game against the Raiders Junior Hockey Club for UNG Show Productions. Puck drops at 7:30 p.m. that night. We'll have our pregame show starting at 7:20 p.m. And as for the Royal Knights and Victorias, both of them in their opening games ended up faring pretty well for both of these teams, having a 4-goal win for each of them. St. Vital 5-1, of course, against Fort Garry, and River East 6-2 against Pembina Valley last night in Morden, Manitoba. So, huge way for them to start off their season. But, yeah, I think the MMJHL site was glitching, or I was just reading things backwards in terms of the shots on Thursday night. I could have sworn I read that the Twins were leading the Vics in shots after the first, then I look after the second, it was reversed. But now it's saying Fort Garry outshot St. Vital 36-25 on that opening night. Both teams took their fair share of penalties, especially in that third period of that one, as the bulk of the penalties came then. But yeah, for St. Vital, they capitalized on their opportunities. 3 for 6 on the power play compared to Fort Garry going 0 for 5. And I found that St. Vital, as the game went on, they upped their pressure, especially in that third period, as they ended up having 11 shots to the Twins' 9. Better results compared to the first 2 periods, where Fort Garry outshot the Vics 13-5 in that first period and 14-9 in the second. But Tyler talked about the defensive play and the structure, and this team, having to want it every night. They got to show up in games, and he said that wasn't always the case last year, and it kind of does explain some of their mishaps at points last season, because even though, yes, this is a better St. Vital team on paper, in my opinion, all around this year compared to last year, now there's still a lot of games to be played, and, things could change. But the structure looked a lot better on opening night in the defensive zone in terms of players being in their lanes more often, and really taking away that middle of the ice and making it tough for Fort Garry throughout the course of the game to get high-dangered scoring chances. For St. Vital, even though they had a lack of quantity chances, I said that their quality of chances were good there. So this is a team that's going to continue to get better and better as the season goes along. Huge statement game to open things up against a team in Fort Garry, the Twins, that should be pretty good this season. And for Ethan Penner, I said that he was a rookie. In the broadcast, I was mistaken, and I think St. Vital has to be excited because, as Rubini said, this is a guy that's played with this team before, and if you look at his junior career over the course of it on Elite Prospects, his best numbers in a junior season, even though it was only 9 games played for the Vics, has been with St. Vital. He starts off with a .972 save percentage, and even though I said that St. Vital was doing a good job of taking away the middle, the quality of chances for Fort Garry as the game went along, in the early stages and midway through this game, even sometimes in the third, but mostly before then, Penner made huge saves, game-changing saves at that, because this was a 1-1 game until the third period when St. Vital took control on their power plays and went crazy there on special teams. But yeah, Penner doesn't make some of the saves he made. We could have been looking at a different type of outcome in this game. And St. Vital, I think that goaltending is something that they need to get over that hump, and not saying that Mason Tebek couldn't be that guy or the other guys that have played for them, but having Ethan Penner here, if he can continue to display this type of play throughout the season, I think that St. Vital is going to be pretty darn happy as this year goes along with their goaltending situation. But we are going to take a transition coming up. We didn't only broadcast the opening night in the MMJHL, but we were at Seven Oaks Sportsplex last night to broadcast the season opener, the home opener for the Raiders Junior Hockey Club and both the season opener for them and the Stonewall Jets as they faced off against each other in what was a pretty entertaining one on that Friday night last night. So we're going to take a quick transition, like I said, and we'll be back here on this edition of the MMJHL Podcast, brought to you by Can Central Sports Cards and Memorabilia, Goaltenders, McCann Fasteners and Tools, and Terrico. More coming up soon. Welcome back to the MMJHL Podcast, brought to you by McCann Fasteners and Tools, Can Central Sports Cards and Memorabilia, Goaltenders, and Terrico. Seems like we have a programming issue tonight. I haven't been able to figure it out in terms of why certain sponsors aren't showing up. We're going to have that fixed for next episode. By the way, this episode coming out a bit later because, one of our mics weren't working, and it's kind of tough to use just MacBook microphone in arena that has so much noise. So the plans this year in terms of this podcast moving forward are going to be to have them on Thursdays on VIX game days, as that opens up the week most times, if not all the time, in the MMJHL. There's very few times when the VIX don't play on a Thursday this season as usual, but we're hoping to do a pregame type of thing depending on how things work, a pregame podcast type of experience where we lead you into our pregame show for the game, or we may do a postgame podcast. We're going to do one of the two as the season goes along, alternating on the Thursdays live from St. Vital Centennial Arena. It's going to be a lot of fun, and I can't wait for it. And by the way, thank you to everyone that's tuned into our games so far. It's been a blast to open up the season. It's only been 2 games. We're going to be broadcasting another game coming up tomorrow. More on that in just a bit. But as mentioned yesterday, we were at Seven Oaks Sportsplex to cover the Raiders Junior Hockey Club, their home opener against the Stonewall Jets in this regular season. And both of these teams finished near the bottom of the standings. One of them made the playoffs in the Raiders Junior Hockey Club, actually making it back from the previous season when they ended up missing. And as for the Stonewall Jets, they're searching this year to get back to the playoffs for the first time in a few years. And with Pat Power and his group, this is a team that started off 0-6 last year, but continued to fight and stayed in the playoff picture, the conversation to make the playoffs for quite some time, all the way up until the end of the season when they needed 2 points to get in but couldn't get it. But both teams are reloaded. They've lost some guys, more so the Raiders compared to Stonewall from the looks of it, as the Jets have a very good group of returning players, a group that I'd say is motivated to make it back this season. And the Raiders, they're returning guys motivated to, prove that they can step up, and they're young guys coming in, they're rookies looking to make a mark yesterday at Seven Oaks. Start off in the first period with a goal as this gets dumped in, and Dylan LeClaire in the crease ends up losing track of this puck, takes a bit of a funny bounce in the Jets' end, as it was the Raiders who opened up the scoring with Lucas D'Souza. But later on, Kaczorowski ends up breaking through and feeds a pass over to Rylan Slatcher to make this a 1-1 game, finding him backdoor. Later on the power play, Peyton Bateman, seemingly with no real great angle to put this in, somehow finds the back of the net. It's 3-1, but shortly later, it would be the Raiders, Melstead, putting home a one-timer, beautiful feed from Lucas D'Souza to make this game close again. But Kaczorowski would end up doing this all himself, pickpocketing the Raiders' defense, shorthanded to send off the Jets back to Stonewall with a 4-2 win in their opening night over the Raiders Junior Hockey Club. Starting off with a win compared to a loss like last season. Not the case this year, but the rest of how opening night went, here it is. The teams who made the finals last season both falling last night. It was the Charleswood Hawks who spoiled the banner-raising night for the defending champion St. James Junior Canucks, shutting them out by a score of 5-0. And if you take a look at the box score of this one, it didn't really even seem close on paper. Although Charleswood went scoreless on the 3 power plays they had, St. James had 4 power play opportunities where they couldn't capitalize on them, of course, being shut out. 43-23 were the shots in favor of the victors, the Hawks, in this one, and they had 5 different goal scorers: Penner, McPherson, Morrison, Enerson, and Carlson. Getting the starting net was Keegan Gordon, as I should say. I don't know why I just butchered his name. Sorry about that, Keegan. But 23 saves on 23 shots against to open up his season with a shutout, and Connor Murphy stopped 38, but allowed 5 on the 43 he faced. As for the St. Boniface Riels and Transcona Railer Express, this game was played in Southdale, and it was St. Boniface who was down 2-0 in this game, but a huge third period for them, seeing 3 straight goals. Both teams getting a goal each in the third period, as St. Boniface starts off with the 1-0 start this season. It was a chippy one by the looks of it on paper. Both teams took 6 penalties each. Both teams with really good PKs in this one, but it was St. Boniface who had one of their goals on the power play, going 1 for 6. Cockerell had 2 goals for them. Cole Davis, that is, not Connor Davis, the captain, and Reyes had the goals for St. B, while Hooper, Chudley, and Mick Lure had the goals for Transcona. We talked about the Jets and Raiders already, but in terms of the River East Royal Knights and Pembina Valley Twisters, as mentioned earlier on, River East starting off their season with a big 6-2 win over last year's finalists in Pembina Valley. 47-23 the shots in favor of River East, a huge night for them. In terms of their scores, it was Logan Ash, rookie for this team, I believe, because he has an asterisk beside him, had a 2-goal night. Wallishen, Maslow, Didick, and Richardson having the other goals for this River East team, so they got some good depth scoring throughout this game. Van Dynes and Spicer having the lone goals for the Twisters in this one. Getting the start for the River East Royal Knights was Keaton Wollishin and Mason Mazaret, with the loss for the Twisters in the pipes, facing 47 shots, stopping 41 of them. Still a good night, but unfortunately the scoreboard not indicating that for Pembina Valley. As for the upcoming games in the league, we're going to have all teams back in action. Pembina Valley, St. James, Transcona, Fort Garry, all looking to get into the win column for the first time this season. Puck drops on Sunday's action starting at 2 p.m. with 2 games, of course, as you can see. We will be at Southdale Arena for the coverage of the St. Boniface Riels versus St. James Junior Canucks, the defending champs, looking to bounce back big time against the team in St. Boniface, who I'd say one of the favorites to take home the championship this season, one of the big contenders for sure, and of course, as mentioned earlier, 2 games on Thursday. St. Vital will be the host to the Raiders, and the Riels will be taking a trip out to rural Manitoba and Stonewall to take on the Jets at 8 p.m. coming up on the 3rd. And as for us, super excited to broadcast tomorrow's game at Southdale Arena. You can watch it on your home for Manitoba Major Junior Hockey League hockey this season on G-Show Productions. MMJHL Game Day number 3. St. Boniface and St. James, both teams We're top 4 in the league last season, top 3 at that. But our pregame show is going to be starting at 2:50 p.m. Central Time tomorrow, 10 minutes before puck drop. Pretty excited for it. Southdale, it should be a fantastic atmosphere. Riel's Nation, if you're watching, we want to hear you loud tomorrow if you're coming down to watch the game. And even though we stream it, please do come down because the atmosphere is always better when there's more fans in the stands, right? And it's like $10 to get in. Something like that. It's around that, so pretty decent price of admission to watch. I'd say the most underrated junior hockey league, maybe in the Prairies. I don't know. I don't have facts or anything on that. It's just an opinion, a statement of mine that I just made. But super excited. Check out gshow.ca as we're going to continue to upload our upcoming games that we're going to broadcast, and we're going to have the times posted of when those games are. Also check out mmjhl.ca to check out the updated scores, stats, standings, and everything from around the league. And I know I said last episode, I think I said this, that we were going to unveil power rankings. It's too soon for this episode 3 to do that because season hasn't even really started, and preseason, at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter, to be honest with you. So we're going to release the first edition of our power rankings this season coming up for episode 4, which will be coming out on Thursday this week, live from St. Vital Centennial Arena. We'll have the time for that show coming up on our social media platforms as well as on gshow.ca as the week progresses coming up. We're going to take one last transition here and then going to say some final words to send you off on this Saturday night on the MMJHL Podcast here on G-Show Productions on gshow.ca. Hate when that happens. Forgot to close that. But yeah, welcome back everybody to this edition of the MMJHL Podcast. If you made it this far, well, you made it to the end of episode 3 in season 2. It's been brought to you by, well, only really Terrico and goaltenders, as you can see on the screen. We're going to have that fixed for next episode where Can Central and Mid-Canada will be back in here. But special thanks to Tyler Rubini, captain for the St. Vital Junior Victorias. What a choice for them as their team captain, and really embodying an all-in mentality, buying into, all aspects of the game. The effort level this year should be pretty relentless from Rubini and the rest of this Vix team if they can, attempt to match his compete level, his effort. More guests to come next week on the MMJHL Podcast. We're probably going to have some guests from St. Vital, some guests from the Raiders. I think I saw Jack Oleksiak on the bench yesterday. I could be wrong about that. It could be a dead ringer, but I'm pretty sure it's him. And I said that on the broadcast yesterday. Like, if it is him, it's cool to see, him, Gibson. I saw Davis Koga around on that Thursday night game, which was kind of cool. I believe he might have been in a Vix jersey. He's played for the Hawks. It might have been a Hawks, not jersey, but a jacket, right? I think it was either the Vix or the Hawks, but he might even be on the Vix staff, right? And I think that whether he's on the Hawks or the Vix staff, no matter what, like, seeing these players involved with this league, transitioning from their playing career to a coaching career, so early too, on from outside of their playing career, ending off. Like, it's cool to see that transition happen so fast. And wishing them the best of luck this season, whichever players are coaching in the league that played in the league either last year, a few years ago, or at any point. Lots of coaches that have played in the league too. Now it seems. I know for Charles Wood and St. James, both of their guys have played in the league. But yeah, enough of me rambling about that. There'll be more stories about the background of all these coaches, these players, as the season goes along. We're here to tell stories about a pretty darn underrated and entertaining junior hockey league here in the province. And if you do enjoy the content that we're putting out here early on in the season, be sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss any one of our uploads here on G Show Productions. Thank you to you, the viewer, for tuning in, by the way. Thank you, of course, to our sponsors, like I said, and Tyler for joining the show. And yeah, next week we'll have this podcast airing on Thursday. Stay tuned on our social media pages as well as on our website for the full schedule for not only this podcast, the MMJHL, but our MFHL podcast, our Pilot Mountain Hockey Academy podcast, as well as our Manitoba Hockey podcast, which returns this Tuesday. Guest list to come, coming up on Monday. That'll do it, folks. Have a great rest of your Saturday night. Thanks for tuning in tonight. If you did, if you're tuning in at any other point, thank you for taking the time out of your day for doing so. And until next time, we'll see you then. Hope you guys tune into our coverage tomorrow of the Riels and Canucks. But if we don't see you until the next podcast, everybody, it's been G's show. Giving you the salute, peacing out, and waving so long on this Saturday night. Take care, everybody.